Forget what you learned in school. Never mind what your parents told you, and disregard what your friends say. From now on, the only people you need to listen to are these guys. For the next several minutes, they'll take you on a journey through the political jungle. And when your journey is over and you're safe at home, they promise you'll be stronger, smarter, and just plain better. So buckle up, hang on to your ears, because your journey starts now.
As I indicated in the last debate, when we received that phone call,
and said we're going to try to have a ceasefire.
And unfortunately, that's
The necessity to put our military
with our troops
together, the parties there to find response.
is all over the map. That had been under the yoke of dictatorship.
All right. Well, gives you an idea what we're going to talk about. I want to welcome you to another episode of what?
Nothing.
Another episode of At Odds.
This technology thing.
Yeah, you'll get the hang of it someday.
Yeah, I will, won't I?
We record these shows in the back room of the Doubleheader Bar and Studio in the greater Lansing area in the great state of Michigan. In what country, Nate?
Luxembourg.
Today's show, we will discuss the last and very boring presidential debate.
Very boring.
Yeah, it was a little lackluster, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, and I think it was boring for a strategic reason, at least on the Republican candidate's part.
He just had to play it cool and not screw up
pretty
too
much.
much.
Pretty much. I do think at this point it's his race to lose.
Really?
And
I don't know.
I think he realizes that the base and the right, people like me, I'm going to vote for him. He could do most anything right now, and I would vote for him unless he starts endorsing Obama, which some people
almost did during the debate. Some people said that.
You know,
well, some of the pundits. Romney agreed with everything Obama has said and done. Now, I don't know if that's true. What if Romney came out and said he'd been sacrificing small babies for the last 20 years? Would you still vote for him?
Human babies?
Yes, Nate.
Oh.
Human babies.
I don't think I'd vote for him then. But
really? Because why should that matter? As long as he can bring our country back.
He's Mormon, so I know he's not doing that. So,
really?
That's fine. Yeah.
Really?
I'm pretty confident that he hasn't sacrificed any babies.
I thought.
In fact, the big October surprise was rumored to be a story of a woman who he consulted to not have an abortion when he was some sort of leader in the church.
Yeah, he was a head honcho in a church in the Detroit area.
Yeah, I don't know if he was head honcho, but he was
the head honcho.
He was something.
I think that's the title.
Something?
Head honcho.
Head honcho of the Mormon church of whatever their church is.
El Hedo Honcho.
I'm not an expert, but that doesn't matter to me.
I don't speak Mormon.
Yeah, I think he was kind of letting Obama destroy himself with all the lies that Obama always throws out there, and
give him enough rope and he hangs himself.
Yeah, I think that sort of strategy, and stay quiet and come across presidential, which he did, very professional. I mean, he wasn't, condescending like Obama was during the debate. He never seems to be.
I liked when Romney said, Mr. President, I don't know, this is the debate. You're attacking me isn't really.
Yeah, and he pointed that out a few times, and that's the truth.
I mean, Romney was attacking him.
Attacks on me aren't plans.
His record, I think that's fair game.
Well, attacking records is fair game, yeah.
Well, and that's kind of what he was doing.
Well,
I don't think that was wrong.
Okay, well, that's fine. That's fine. It's a debate, and I wish it was more interesting than it was, but it wasn't.
I like this, when they're asked a question. All right, now, gentlemen, we'd like your opinion on the crisis in the Middle East. And Romney comes in and says, well, I'm glad you asked me that question. What we got to do is strengthen our economy, and Obama hasn't done a very good job. And, really? Middle East didn't come in there at all.
Yeah, no. Well, Libya didn't either.
Well, that's another show.
Well, yeah, but I mean that is the big news, and it was people attacked Romney afterwards for not bringing that up. I don't think it was a bad thing that he didn't, especially some of the information that's come out after that we will talk about. Did
you get any numbers on the audience?
they predicted it would be very, very low because of the Monday Night Football and the World Series game or something.
It seems like maybe I saw something in the 50 millions, but I don't know that for sure.
So
that might not have been the third debate. I don't know. I think it was a bit less, but you had Monday Night Football, you had World Series game.
Yeah, and I think people were getting tired of the debates, and maybe that explains some of the lacklusterlessness.
Well, I guess my point was I think Romney now thinks, whether accurate or not, that he has his base. He needs to shore up some in the middle that don't want him to be too aggressive, don't want him to attack the president. They don't want to see those personal attacks. The undecideds? Like that. Yeah, the undecideds. I don't know. I don't personally know how anybody could be undecided right now. That just seems
I heard on another show that the undecided were typically females, young, generally under 25, with a high school education or less.
Mm-hmm.
That was the majority of the undecided people.
Of likely voters?
Of likely voters.
Really?
And it was like 15 or 20% of those undecided wouldn't even vote anyways. So I think everybody's pretty much...
Is that why Obama's coming out with ads likening voting to losing your virginity?
Huh?
Is that why he's doing that? He has that 26-year-old, she's a star on a sitcom or something, comes on, your first time you want it to be with the right man.
Oh, my God. No, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah. And it goes back to something that Putin did a while ago. And, Obama and Putin are pretty good friends.
They're buddies.
He had a similar thing about,
They play pool down at the same place down the road there.
Like your virginity.
A very special moment.
We saw these somewhat out of context quotes from Reagan surface lately where he mentioned that he was a Democrat and voted Republican for the first time, and it hurt at first for a little bit, but then it felt really good afterwards.
You're kind of turning me on.
There's some context. That's weird, but there's context there. But I think it's an inappropriate ad.
Not so subtle innuendos being made.
No, I don't know.
Not so subtle.
I don't know. Not so subtle innuendo.
Not so subtle innuendos.
Interesting. The most exciting part about this debate was really President Obama just
the end
being a jerk.
I thought it was the end.
Oh,
really? I'm not going to let you say that. That's the president of our country.
Is it unconstitutional for me to say that, like Chris Matthews would think?
Luxembourg. Yeah.
Luxembourg's a very rich country.
I know. We live here in Michigan.
It's very small. It's a very small country too, but and
you can laugh into the microphone. You don't have to turn away to laugh.
It's weird that our presidential candidates are the same as those over there in the United States.
The what?
They're the same name. They have the same names. Our presidential candidates.
Now you're being silly.
Yeah. Well.
Where were we?
I don't know. I was talking about the president pretty much being condescending during this debate.
Less certain and less secure.
Bob, I just need to comment on this. First of all, the sequester's not something that I proposed. It's something that Congress has proposed. It will not happen.
Well, let's talk about that for a second.
Sequestering?
The sequestration.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That doesn't even sound good. It's like, it makes my boys tighten up.
Obama just said that it's not something he proposed. It's something that Congress proposed.
Yes.
It's not a proposal right now. It is law. It was signed into law by the current president, who happens to be Barack Hussein Obama, the man who just said it will not happen. And what this whole deal is they signed this deficit reduction package that said if Congress can't somehow cut the deficit by like $1.2 million by a certain date, then these automatic $1.2 trillion, these automatic cuts happen, and they are cuts to defense spending. I think it was a terrible idea when it was signed into law. I still think it's a terrible idea. But it is not a proposal anymore. It is law.
Well, but technically, Congress proposed it.
At some point, they sure did. And Barack Hussein Obama signed it into law.
Yeah, okay.
But the law that I signed this summer stated that if Congress could not reach an agreement on the deficit, there would be another $1.2 trillion of automatic cuts in 2013, divided equally between domestic spending and defense spending.
Okay, so divided equally, domestic and defense.
So you were wrong.
I was wrong.
You were half wrong.
I was half wrong.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
There are no gradations of wrong.
We should make no cuts
right.
to defense spending.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, we shouldn't.
I don't know. I think military defense, some of the things are bloated.
It will not happen. That's going to happen, one way or another. We've got $1 trillion locked in, and either Congress comes up with $1.2 trillion, which so far they've failed to do, or the sequester kicks in and these automatic spending cuts will occur that bring in an additional $1.2 trillion in deficit reduction.
So that's interesting to me. He claims during the debate that it will not happen, and he has said more than once that it will happen. He signed the law. It's not a proposal. It's going to happen. These are cuts that will be terrible. We can't have these sorts of spending cuts.
Well, we need spending cuts.
We do need spending cuts. We do not need spending cuts to defense.
Why is that?
Our missile defense program needs to be strong. Our Navy needs to be strong. Our Air Force needs to be strong. These are all things that he wants to cut. We need horses and bayonets. We need to develop these ships that can go underwater.
We have ships that go underwater.
I don't know. Let's find out.
The budget that we're talking about is not reducing our military spending. It's maintaining it. But I think Governor Romney maybe hasn't spent enough time looking at how our military works. You mentioned the Navy, for example, and that we have fewer ships than we did in 1916. Well, Governor, we also have fewer horses and bayonets.
That's actually not 100% accurate either. I think we have more bayonets
not
issued
100%.
now. No, I mean, we still issue bayonets. We still use bayonets. We still use horses. They still use horses.
Yes,
I mean, especially funerals and things. And if in Afghanistan,
we actually use them in the Middle East.
Yeah. And bayonets are issued and used. Now, I did read.
Well, they're trained with. They're not used very often.
No, and the training is actually different. It's more of using it as a secondary backup weapon than.
That's what it always was.
Well,
listen, a bayonet was the bayonet was developed to put on the end of a long rifle, of a single shot rifle in the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries, when you had one fire volley and then you charged with bayonets. And it was basically a
so
pike.
it was a secondary weapon after you throw some odd shaped lead downfield.
Right. Now, having said that, it is a last resort weapon when you run out of ammunition, but it's only good when you are face to face with an enemy. Now, that doesn't happen very often. The last real bayonet battle, you're looking at me and rolling your eyes, was the British commandos in the Falklands in the early 80s, where they were overrun. They were out of ammunition. They actually fixed bayonets and fought hand to hand. Why, we still have bayonets. We still train with them. They're generally not used that often.
What? Oh.
You couldn't use the crickets,
Yeah. No, I fell
That's
asleep.
what we paid all that money for.
I would have used the crickets, but
expensive sound effects.
So you got off track there. My point was
off track. You brought up bayonets.
Bayonets are used differently than they used to be, and they are trained differently today.
All right. Well, how are they used differently and trained differently?
That's not important.
Oh.
I don't know why you're even talking about that.
I just thought I'd throw that. It was an interesting anecdote.
Very interesting.
Because the nature of our military has changed. We have these things called aircraft carriers where planes land on them. We have these ships that go underwater, nuclear submarines. And so the question is not a game of battleship where we're counting ships. It's what are our capabilities? And so when I sit down with the Secretary of the Navy and the Joint Chiefs of Staff, we determine how are we going to be best able to meet all of our defense needs in a way that also keeps faith with our troops, that also makes sure that our veterans have the kind of support that they need when they come home. And that is not reflected in the kind of budget that you're putting forward because it just doesn't work.
All right.
I think that's a intelligent answer. You look at your capabilities, you look at what you need, you look at your budget, and you try to make the best use of those dollars.
Yeah, and it wasn't his answer here so much as the way the President of the United States.
His attitude?
Yeah, his attitude. Oh, we have these things, these ships.
Little condescending. I'll give you